In review, September 18th, 2023. I have this new setup. I don't know if I like it yet with the over-the-ears feature, but Souza and Sevon recommended it, so I will give this a go. Let me know in comments if it sounds cleaner. It should, unless I set it up wrong. So we'll just dive into it. At Sergio Briseno 95. When programming for the games, what do you look at to see if the test is suitable to find the fittest on Earth? And when looking at other competitions, do you look at the programming and see if it is well balanced? So I use the CrossFit tenets, the CrossFit essentially teachings as high level how to test for the fittest on Earth. Is it a broad, general, inclusive test, testing for work capacity across broad time and modal domains? And from there, high level, then I start coming down into the weeds and actually making sure we have stuff that's long, stuff that's short, stuff that's heavy, stuff that's light, high rep, light, and a variety of other little aspects, all based on our methodology to make sure it's well-rounded. Making sure we don't have any one thing or focus too much on just heavy or focus too much on just gymnastics. So you have to look at the entirety of it all and throughout the entire process of creating it. Do I ever look at other programming to see if it's well balanced for other events? No, it's kind of this weird thing I have where I don't look at other events programming at all in total of what they're doing for the weekend. Sometimes I'll see an event, but I typically, or especially the big competitions, I'm not looking at the events and evaluating them or judging them for what they're doing. When I was doing the games, I put a lot of time and effort and a lot of focus in looking at what I create, and I don't want to put that same time or energy into looking at someone else's because it takes up a lot of my time, and it was exhausting, that process for me. So to deal with it in a way that I can, I just don't even look at theirs because I don't want to be burned out by always looking at people's programming. Burned out in my mind in the way I do things. So I don't go there. At Samuel S. Perlin 1616, can we try and get a Fraser versus Froning 24.1 open announcement? I tried years ago while Froning was retired from individual but still doing team, and Fraser was winning individual. Every year it felt like I tried to get them to compete against each other. For whatever reason, Fraser had his reasons for not doing the open and at a certain point, and Froning had his, wasn't interested in going against Fraser. I think they both publicly had an interesting dynamic anyways, so it was pretty loaded to ask to set that up. I offered to pay Froning for sure. I must have offered that to Fraser too, but maybe when I offered the concept to Froning and he just didn't bite at all, I didn't even go to Fraser with it, but definitely wanted to set that up. Would love to still set it up. I think there's zero chance that either of them would do it, but it'd be super cool if they would. At Row Wine Masters Rowing 434. Media pass for you next games. Just another CF YouTuber now. I don't think I'm just another CF YouTuber now. I don't even think I'm a CF YouTuber. I think this is not a CF YouTuber thing. On that note, Heppner just started, inspired by this, just started his own weekly series, which it's pretty cool to see someone else in the community taking this format and seeing some value or use in it. And he's going to do for his audience and his fans, he's going to do a little weekly review. And he actually hit me up before it. So he reached out and said, hey, Dave, just giving you a heads up, I'm going to do something very similar to you and give you attribution for the idea. And I said, cool, good luck. And pretty cool. So check out Heppner's. I don't know if he's calling it week in review, though, but check out Heppner's week in review. At Magnus Hall 3400. Started doing CrossFit during COVID here in Sweden, and it's a new world, which is cool. And I've been doing the Open now for the last 3 years. But every year I hear in social media, the Open doesn't matter for the elite. It would be cool to see the elite athletes would see the Open just as serious as quarterfinals and semifinals. What if you, CrossFit, would decide that one Open workout, not announced which one during the Open, would be used for ranking and call it, let's say, the Open Clause? You would then apply the Open Clause in the semifinal when there is a point difference of 1 to 3 point dividing placement, 5 to 6 in a semifinal. Reset scoring for these athletes and let the open clause decide which will get the final spot. Then the open would then matter, and most of the elite athletes would be forced to see the open just as important as the other levels. I kind of like your idea a lot, and then I don't like your idea at all. I think the open should mean more, and I think we should make it mean more. The way you're expressing that, I think, is really confusing and has a lot of legs to it, meaning it's not intuitive and you have to wait for a very long time later in the competition season to actually have it applied. Really, and we've done this in recent years, the open or a part of the open should kind of roll over to your semifinal scores, if anything, and that would be a better look. When we added quarterfinals, I think, and we added quarterfinals through COVID and what we were able to do at that point in terms of qualifying athletes to the next stage, we couldn't have in-person events. It made sense then, and it also had the effect of, as the years went on, diminishing the value of the open and its necessity for the top athletes. I still think there are some that take it seriously, and prior to that, I think even before we added quarterfinals, there was a point where some athletes were caring less about it. But before that, there was a number of years where it really did matter just because it was from the open straight to the actual in-person event, and there was limited spots. So it's kind of gone in waves, this idea of athletes not caring about the open. It hasn't always been that way. It's more of a recent thing. And yes, I would like to solve for that and change it so they do really care about the open and put a premium on doing well in the open, which I think a lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot. At Hayden Goodall, good day, Dave. As a non-military man, it's wild to think of the rage I have against stolen valor. I watch Senior Chief Don Shipley call out people constantly, and I'm shocked that, one, there are so many videos, and two, that people aren't beating brooms outside these people workplaces. Beating brums. Is that an Aussie thing? Interested in knowing your thoughts. I've had a few personal interactions with some, they call it stolen valor moments, and first of all, I think it's ridiculous that people lie about this stuff, but it's not a surprise. Society, especially pop culture, has kind of put groups like SEALs and others, special forces, on this this higher level of it's such a cool thing to be or have associated with or be or have in your past, that once anyone places it at this higher level, there's going to be people who are going to leverage that for their own personal gain, with those who have no idea how to find out otherwise or how to vet them. I was at a shooting range 3 or 4 years ago in San Luis Obispo, and someone recognized me, another shooter, and he's like, "Hey, Dave, good to see you." And he was a CrossFitter, or he had done CrossFit at one point, but he knew who I was. And so we were talking, and then he said, "Hey, so there's another guy here who's also a SEAL." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. What's his name?" And he said, I'm just going to say Mike. I don't remember the guy's name. And he said, "Mike." And so Mike was shooting another stage in another group. And I never doubt those things. And so he said Mike's been shooting there for a long time, and I said, "Cool, I'll go introduce myself." I went over and introduced myself to Mike, and there's 2 or 3 questions that you can ask, for especially someone coming from that background, where instantly he is lying. And I asked 2 or 3 questions, and it was clear that this guy was not a SEAL, and he was lying about being a SEAL. And I told him I was a SEAL, and he stayed with it. And I'm not going to make a scene. I don't care that much. So I'm not going to call the guy out or try to pick a fight. And so I left, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of sad that guy has to go there. The other guy came up to me, and he's like, "Hey, did you meet him?" I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "Hey, I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to make a scene, but I just want to let you know your friend is lying to you." And he's like, "No, that can't be." I'm like, "Hey, he's not a SEAL. He's straight up, he's lying about that." And I don't even say anything. I don't care if you tell anyone. I just don't want to make a big deal about it. I'm a guest here at this shooting range, and I'm shooting at this competition. So, and that was that. there's and so it is baffling. It is weird that people do that, especially to someone else who maybe he thought I was lying. I've had that happen before. I've had people accuse me of not being a real SEAL, and that's funny. And again, even in those cases, I don't care because I don't have anything to prove to anyone. So, yeah, the stolen valor stuff is weird. Good on Don Shipley for doing what he's doing. I think he has a pretty big following from it. I knew him years ago because I was on the East Coast, and so didn't know him well, but knew of him and crossed paths with him a couple times. Okay, next comment. At Toxic2KSI, please let us know where the games in 2024 are gonna be. I want to book my fight. Ty, that wasn't my language, that was his language. Just pay attention. Pay attention this week. At Paramishamadi, do you bow hunt? If so, what is your favorite animal to hunt? I have a bow. Hoyt and some friends there have set me up with great bows. I don't really do a lot of bow hunting. I'm really into the rifle scene and firearms. So I've killed a pig with the bow, and I've killed a turkey with the bow. And it's really hard hunting with the bow. I give a nod to all of those people who do hunt bows with bows. But it's kind of not my thing. I do enjoy doing it sometimes, but I'm more into the firearms. And since it's so easy for me to shoot here at the ranch, there's really no reason to go too deep into the bow hunting stuff. If I still lived in San Diego, or I lived somewhere where I didn't have my own shooting range, I'd probably be way more into bow hunting and shooting bows. At Sandy Curry 1780, Rogan says CrossFit hurts people. He does not know what he's talking about. So Rogan is completely wrong on that. And interestingly, his endeavor of choice, jiu-jitsu, probably has way more injuries than CrossFit does. So I don't know what's going on there, but besides Matt, he's never really had CrossFitters on. That tells me 100% he has an issue with CrossFit, and I don't think he's a fan. So it's also why I don't expect anyone else to go on. But if he is saying it hurts people, he's completely wrong. At Draz Dark Silver, do you think there's a future market for a separate team-based competition with the growth of training camps potentially season-based with the franchise model and squads with a series of events and a league table to provide more earning opportunities, exposure, and prestige year-round for CrossFit than just standalone events like the Games, Wadapalooza, and Rogue? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with all of this stuff in this sport. The sport is still in its infancy. I mean, people talk about wanting to be, viewed as professional athletes, like the ball sports, and all of those sports have decades, in some cases, if not centuries, behind them to the point to where they are now. We are still completely young. With the potential for what we can do and which direction you could take it, the sky is truly the limit in terms of ideas. In terms of actually application and what makes sense as a business or what makes sense as a sport organization, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, that have to be taken into account. There's a lot of things that have to be taken into account to make those decisions to not overextend ourselves. And we've overextended ourselves in the past, and it's really easy to get in front of your skis with all of the good ideas out there. So one of the things with just even managing this sport or managing the growth of CrossFit, the games over the years, has been kind of this give and take. Some people are kind of, I don't want to say greedy with it, but they want to grab more and make it bigger and make it take more real estate, make it bigger than it is. I've even done that at points. But kind of sometimes reining it in and just understanding where we are in the evolution of us as a sport, and being patient is a good path forward. So yeah, your idea is great. There's a lot of, you could dive into it and really shell something out, but great ideas don't mean that we're ready for them yet. So maybe then it's not a great idea. Maybe the timing's right, so that makes it a okay idea. Had a shooting match at the ranch this weekend, little 22s. I made a bunch of mistakes. I think I was 4th or 5th. Easily should have won it if I had not made my mistakes. But that being said, I imagine all the other shooters too that were clumped up with me in the 1st through 5th also made their own mistakes. So it's easy to say that, but it applies to everyone else too. Good time though. I always enjoy having people over at the ranch and doing these little shooting competitions. Big week, lot going on. So stay tuned, pay attention, and I will address comments next week. I'll see you guys next week, and let me know how this thing worked out. Still don't know if I like the look, but I hope the sound is much better. All right, thanks.